Hello everybody, my name is Matt. I'm an instructor here at the Florida Aquarium, and this is the first of several videos where I'm going to be drawing animals from the Galapagos Islands. Now the reason we've chosen the Galapagos Islands is because, well, they're really cool, but also because Dr. Ellen Prager has written a book called Escape Galapagos. It's the first of the Wonderlist Adventure series, and while we're all stuck inside, she has kindly agreed to read her book over several sessions, which you can find over on the Florida Aquarium Facebook page, starting April 6th. So let's start our adventure with one of my favorite animals, the marine iguana. I wanted to include some photographs of marine iguanas in case you aren't familiar with what they look like, and my Uncle Ralph was kind enough to let me use these from his trip back in 2012. Beautiful lizards, and they're only found in the Galapagos Islands. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, you can see I've already got some just basic lines down here, and for some reason my video editing program didn't record that, but that's okay, because most of it we've got. And what I'd like to do is, while we go through this, I'm going to be telling you some art tips, but also telling you some information about the marine iguana. The first thing I want to tell you is you can follow along and just watch, or grab a piece of paper and a pencil and try and draw along with me. I will tell you that I have sped this drawing up a little bit, so don't think that I drew this fast, because I didn't. And you can always pause or rewind if you need to, if you miss something, if you are trying to draw along. Now, one thing I will say is whenever you start a drawing, it's always a good idea to start with the foundation. When you build a building, you put the foundation in. When you do a drawing, you put the foundation in. And I'm doing that here with a very light blue sort of pencil line. I'm using a program called Procreate on an iPad to draw this, if you guys are curious out there. It is a lot of fun to use this program, and one of the advantages is I don't have to erase. I can just draw, and I can change how dark or light the lines are. But I'm still using the same basic techniques as I would with a pencil. I just don't have to worry about pushing really lightly or sharpening my pencil. So this is the basic shape of our marine iguana, and some of the things you might notice right away is that they have a very, very flat face. And that flat face is important because, unlike a lot of their relatives who have a more pointy face and are picking off leaves and stuff out of trees, these guys are eating almost exclusively marine algae. And having a flat face helps them really get close and scrape that algae right off of a rock. Now, what I'm doing right there is I'm able to actually cut and move some of those lines. So those feet were too big. In fact, one of the things about marine iguanas is they have shorter, stockier, and stronger feet and legs than most other iguanas. That way they can hold onto those rocks with their sharp claws, but also tuck them in to swim. And now I've switched to another layer, and I'm going over it with a darker pencil, and I'm going to add more details in. I'm going to refine some of my lines a little bit, and then after that, I'm going to do it again. So this is what I talk about when I say building that frame, building that foundation. You got to have something to lay it all out on, and this is a good way to do that. So let's see. Let's talk more about these marine iguanas. They live probably 5 to 12 years in the wild. They can get 4 or 5 feet long, and they can weigh, usually they weigh about 1 to 3.5 pounds. But there are some heavier ones that have been recorded out there. But, you know, they're swimming a lot, so they're getting a lot of exercise. Lots of cardio for these iguanas as they swim around. I mentioned they're herbivores, so they're diving for their food, and these guys are pretty amazing free divers. Some of them have been seen to go down to as deep as like 100 feet or just about 100 feet, and they can stay underwater for like an hour. But most of them don't do that. Most of them dive in shallow water, maybe even a few feet of water, maybe 10, 15 feet of water, and they usually only stay under for a few minutes. Now, one of the things that helps them is they have a very laterally compressed tail. I'm going to throw some big science words at you here. But basically, laterally compressed means it's flattened up and down. Think about like a crocodile tail. And that helps them to swim through the water with a minimal amount of effort. Now, another thing that they have to deal with is living in the Galapagos, the water there is pretty cold. I mean, we're talking like maybe it gets into the low 70s, but a lot of times it's closer to the 50s or somewhere in between. And these guys are reptiles, so they get their energy from heating up under the sun. And they don't want to be 70 degrees. They want to be like 110 or so. So how do they do that? Well, like most reptiles, they'll just sit out in the sun and bask and soak up that heat. But in order to regenerate that heat really fast, or I should say generate that heat really fast, they have very dark skin. almost black in some subspecies. And I did say subspecies because there are a bunch of different subspecies of marine iguana, at least 6 or 7, maybe as many as 11, maybe even more. Science is still learning about these guys. There's that laterally compressed tail. But that dark color helps them soak up that heat from the sun, and they get recharged real quick, helps them to digest all of that algae and seaweed, which is not easy to digest. They actually have to have special bacteria in their guts in order to digest that algae. And how do they get it? Look, this is kind of gross, but they get it from eating the poop from other marine iguanas when they're babies. Yeah, that's right. And then they get that bacteria in their digestive system, and they can process all that algae that they eat. Pretty crazy, right? So you see I've added some rocks here and a little bit of water just to give it a little hint of a background. And now I am switching to what would be in traditional art like an ink pen, a marker, like a Sharpie even, something like that. And now I'm going to make more significant lines, and I'm going to pay attention to several things. One, I'm going to really focus on the curves, the shapes of these lines. You can see I'm trying to get this mouth just right. Takes me a few times here. That's one advantage of digital art, folks. You can't erase ink in real life, not very easily. So you can do that, though, with digital art. And I'm also going to add maybe some extra details, like these little scales on the lip, and just really try and get my iguana picture to come to life. I love their faces. A lot of the early explorers came to the Galapagos and came back with these stories about how hideously ugly these lizards were. And I have to tell you, I disagree. I think these lizards are adorable. But maybe they're one of those things that, like so ugly they're cute. I don't know. What do you guys think? I think they're pretty cool. And also, I don't know if you noticed in those pictures in the beginning, they have a lot of them have a lot of red on them. Some of them even have this beautiful sort of turquoise color. So really pretty animals. All right, so here I am focusing again on these lines, getting the head right and this little crest that they have. Now they have all these spines. I'm trying to draw those pretty well. If this is a male, it's going to have taller spines than a female. I don't know which one this one is. I'm going to say it's a male, but I don't really know. And we're just going to keep working on this iguana. I'm going to add a little bit of detail to sort of hint at the coloration and where it goes. So the head on these animals is kind of a light pale color, kind of a gray with a little bit of pinkish. And I'm putting these lines in. I'm going to add some more at the end because I am going to make this available as a coloring sheet. So even if you're not drawing along, or if you want just a reference you can look at, you can go over to the aquarium's website, go to the education tab, look for digital resources, and you should be able to find this coloring page. If it's not up right away, give it a little bit of time so they can get them up there. But I plan on doing coloring pages for all the animals that I cover. If you decide to print these off and color them, please post them over on our Facebook group for the Florida Aquarium so I can see what you guys are doing. And if you draw them, post those as well. I'd love to see what you guys are creating out there. So let's get back to this drawing. I'm drawing the back leg here. And when I did the original sketch, I didn't really get the toes very well. So I'm going to try and give them a little bit more detail as we go through and just make them look a little bit more lizard-like than they maybe looked at first. There we go. As I mentioned earlier, these claws are really sharp and really strong because they have to be able to grip onto those rocks, which underwater, there's a lot of currents around the Galapagos, so they have to be able to really hold on to those so they can get their food and they don't drift out to sea. Here we go with that tail. And like I said, it's laterally compressed, allows them to swim nice and fast through the water, which is pretty important if you are a marine iguana. Now, one of the things I like to do when I'm drawing with ink, whether it's traditional ink or digital ink, and even when I'm doing other forms, pencil even you can do this, is to vary the line weight. What that means is you'll see that down by the belly of this iguana, I've made the line a little bit thicker, and then maybe it's a little bit thinner up at the top. And by doing that, you kind of help represent this animal and what it looks like in 3 dimensions. Even though you're drawing it 2D on a piece of paper, or in this case on a screen, you can still give the illusion that something is heavier or something's at the bottom or where a light source is shining. All those sorts of things can be represented simply by line weight. Now here we're going to add some detail to the rocks. These guys love to bask on this kind of volcanic rock that is all over the Galapagos Islands. And that's another way that they can help recharge their bodies, because those rocks heat up in the sun, and then they can sit on that and, just think about how nice it is on a nice cool day, and maybe there's a hot chair you can lay in and bask in the sun. Feels good, right? So that's what they're going to do. Only they do it all the time. They eat every single day. Sometimes when we have what's called an El Nino, things can be a little tough. Some of the subspecies will actually eat things like terrestrial plants, but for the most part, they are dependent on that algae. And one of the things that we're concerned about with marine iguanas is how much climate change is going to affect that. El Ninos are going to be maybe stronger, maybe more frequent. Is that going to have an impact on these iguanas? Right now, they're considered vulnerable animals, but we need to give them lots of protection. Their biggest challenges today are things like introduced animals like rats and dogs and cats that go after their eggs. Here we go. We'll give this guy a nice ocean view with that sun beating down on him. Beautiful day in the Galapagos. And I'm going to add some more of those lines. Like I said, I'm going to make this available as a coloring sheet. So if you want, you can color it. And these lines will kind of help you put where the pattern goes. Look at the reference, though. And I'll also have at the end of this an example of one that I colored. But look at reference photos and color your marine iguana however you want. Pretty cool. Now, I do want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. And if you did enjoy it, make sure to leave us a comment, give us a thumbs up or a like wherever you're watching it, and let us know if you would like to see more videos like this. All right, well, I'm just going to add a little bit more detail here to our marine iguana. And let us know also, what animals would you like to see me draw from the Galapagos Islands? I'm going to stick to animals that Dr. Prager puts in her book. But if there is something that you would like to see, drop us a comment and we'll see what we can do. All right, I'm going to add a few more head spikes onto this lizard and just really kind of capture this unusual looking iguana face. And then we are going to call this drawing finished. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, I'll see you later.